in those days, it was not fun to be me. I was a closeted sport jock. My whole world was homophobic and they didn't even know it. It's just the way of the culture.
Today on Rainbow Country, gay Olympic gold.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Becker, and this is Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Mark Tewksbury, hi, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. How are you?
I am well. It is a pleasure to chat with you, to talk with you, even if it's virtually. So thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So, for his excellence in athletic excellence, sport leadership, championing equity, inclusion, and human rights, both on and off the field, on November 27th, 2020, you received the Order of Canada. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was made a companion. That's actually the highest rank within the order. There's only 165 living Canadians at any time can be a companion. So not only into the Order of Canada, but I didn't realize there were different ranks, and they really gave me the most incredible honor by making me companion.
And how does that feel?
It felt beautiful. It felt really, I don't know, my whole life has been kind of not anti, but the road less traveled. I had to often leave institutions and hold a light to them and, come out or do something to kind of raise awareness to issues. And it wasn't a very logical path to being recognized by the crown or your country. But it's pretty cool that in 2021 or 2020 that happened. And I think I'm one of the few people in there that's openly gay and recognized for my work as a sportsman and, of course, as a human rights activist. So it's really nice. It was very, very touching. I cried a lot, I have to be honest. I just kind of, because it was such a shock.
How did you find out?
They call. So the Rideau Hall calls and you have to accept. It's very formal. A lot of people much younger than I have gotten the Order of Canada. And so I kind of thought maybe I'd never get the Order of Canada. It was just one of those things. I didn't get it. And then to get it and learn about the companion and get the companion, it's like, what? It's so I guess it was worth the wait.
And so is there a difference between the Order of Canada and the companion Order of Canada?
Yeah, so the Order of Canada has 3 ranks within it. If you're a member, there's been about 4,500 members in Canada's history since 1967. The next rank is an officer, and there's been about 2,000 officers since 1967. And then the highest rank is companion. And as I said, you can only have 165 living Canadians at any one time. And there's probably been less than about 500 in our whole history. So I'm the only summer Olympian except for Dick Pound that's in there. So it's like, what? So yeah, most people don't know. And the way you can tell is the post-nominal. So you'll see people with letters after their name. CM is a member, OC is officer, and CC is companion. The other way is, you'll notice I'm wearing, for your listeners.
I see you wear your pin.
Your listeners, you'll have a snowflake-looking pin that's on a lapel or the left side of somebody's clothing. And that usually is the Order of Canada. And within it, there's a maple leaf. And if the maple leaf is silver, the person's a member. If it's gold, the person's an officer. And in my case, I've got a red maple leaf, and the red represents the companions.
Wow.
Yeah. So most people have no idea about that. I myself, until I became a part of the Order of Canada, was not aware of all of this either. So kind of my mission to educate people a little bit.
Well, thank you for educating me.
Pleasure.
You are known as an Olympic champion, especially in swimming. Now a recipient of the Order of Canada, companion. You're also known as a public speaker and as a coach. Yourself and Debbie Muir, who is a silver medalist in synchronized swimming at the 1971 Pan Am Games, the two of you have created the Great Traits Corporate Companions, the
Corporate
Champions program. What is the Great Traits Corporate Champions program all about? Talk to me about this.
Well, it's super. It's like one of the most unique leadership training programs in the world, I think. And the reason I say that, it's unique for a bunch of different reasons. One is we look at this notion of leadership from 3 different points of view with 3 different courses of action. So how to lead yourself, how to lead others, and then for ongoing success. So those 3 things come together. We also train leadership like we train athletes to win the Olympics. And we really realize that the pursuit of athlete success and the pursuit of business success are incredibly similar. And they center around the pursuit of high performance, of getting better results, of improvement, of betterment. And so instead of training leadership, we train people in the traits of high performance. And after 12 weeks of going through our fairly rigorous, very simple, but very action-oriented, rigorous program, people emerge as leaders that can literally tackle any challenge that's thrown at them. But we need them for 12 weeks, for 3 months. And that's where the learning and the magic happens.
And is this part of the Olympic Committee at all or anything like that?
No, this is my business. So this is how I earn my living. All of the Olympic stuff, it's all volunteer. So that I get to do for free.
Wow. Wow.
But certainly, I mean, my Olympic experience, Debbie was my coach. She kind of developed this framework in a way and then transferred it to my sport and then transferred it to other sports and then other businesses. So it's been really exciting. I mean, I think this is really homage to Debbie and her real insight and her ability to just get the best out of people. So it's really nice to be part of the business with her. We've been together for over 30 years as friends, colleagues, and now business owners.
Do you think that at some point this program will be able to be accessed by regular people, like just the average Joe wanting to improve themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right now it's I'd call it maybe a bit of a boutique product because there's only so many classes every year. It has to be done at certain launch dates, but we're going to fully digitize what we're doing in the upcoming year. And so that people can start this journey, their 12 weeks, whenever they would like. Won't be quite the same. It'll be a slightly different version, but absolutely the learning will all be the same. And the pathway that you'll follow, the framework will still be the same.
I can see this being something that you guys offer on PBS. You know how they have those programs that, self-improvement.
Even better, we'll do it on YouTube. That's the new PBS.
So let's dive into the pool. So Commonwealth Games champion, Pan-Pacific champion, world champion, Olympic champion, 2 Olympic Games, 1988, 1992. Here's the question. When did you first discover swimming?
So I started swimming when I was about 5 because my parents lived in Dallas. We were transferred from Calgary. My dad worked for an oil company as a junior accountant. And then I watched the 76 Olympics on TV and I was 8 years old. And we had the kind of success that, we've seen in Rio and Tokyo with the Canadian swimmers, lots of medals. So I got really excited. And that's when I joined a swimming club. And when I was about 10 to 12, I started to show real promise. Then from about 12 to 15, I struggled a bit with hormones and growing, et cetera. And then I kind of found my way again and made the junior national team by the time I was 16, and the rest became history.
Well, in 1988, at the Seoul Summer Olympics, you won silver in the 4x100 meter medley, your first Olympic Games.
Medley relay.
The medley relay. Mm-hmm. When you were at your first games in 1988, what were those games like for you?
They were very overwhelming. I had never been, the idea of going to see an Olympic city before you compete there is actually more of a current idea. Back then, I'd never been to South Korea. I'd never been to Seoul. So just being in that completely different climate of Asia was, first of all, surprising. And the Olympic Village is, especially in the summer, it's quite extraordinary. It is literally like a city within the city. And you're surrounded by, thousands of the world's best athlete specimens from all different countries and shapes and sizes, depending on the sport. And I was just incredibly distracted. I was just kind of, and I did not have a great Olympic, I had a good Olympic experience. I didn't have a good Olympic swimming experience. I really soaked in all the Olympics, but yeah, it was overwhelming and distracting. And so that was great, though. When I went to my second Olympics in Barcelona, that did not happen. First of all, I went to see Barcelona, the city, early. I felt very comfortable in that city, which was, I think, a really good omen. Just as a side note, I continue to go to Barcelona to this day for holiday. So it had nothing to do with winning the Olympics. I even forget that I won the Olympics there. I've been so many times for holiday. So I was able to really change that first experience to the second one.
So back in 88, was there a plan, whether it was maybe it was verbalized or whether it was maybe in your mind, was there a long-term plan that this 88 was going to be your first games, but you were going to go to 92 as well?
No. I was a medal favorite tracking before 88. There was this real huge innovation in my sport. An underwater dolphin kick was added, and you could go as far as you wanted underwater. I was terrible at it, so I fell down the world rankings. No, I didn't even have a plan for how I was going to swim my race in the ready room right before the race. Like, I was totally lost. I just can't even say it enough, because I was sure, like the Russians and some of the great swimmers of the world would not adopt this new start because they were old school like I was. And when I got to the Olympics and I saw even the Russians swimming, the whole half a length of the pool underwater, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble. So yeah, I had a lot of failures at that first games, and it was intended to be a success.
Mm. So those games were quite the games. There was Ben Johnson, who was your team member, Team Canada, and he won the 100 meter, but then got disqualified because he tested positive for a banned substance. Do you know Ben Johnson at all?
Not really. I mean, I was on a couple of teams with Ben, but no, I not really. But of course, his persona and who he was at that time was larger than life. He was the superstar of the team. I was just one of however many hundreds of people that went solo, but he was truly one of the biggest stars in the world at that time.
And what was the atmosphere like when everything sort of imploded around him, so to speak, in regards to Team Canada, 88 Team Canada?
Well, I was lucky because I was finished competing. So, I mean, I just think it would have been such a huge distraction. And I know, Debbie and the synchronized swimming team, they had to really keep their focus of attention because they came after that and remarkably won 2 gold medals with that sort of circus going on around them. But I remember when he won, I remember, being in the Olympic Village and hearing just a roar from the Canadian delegation. It happened to be the same day I swam on the relay in the evening, so I was trying to rest. And so that was exciting. And then I remember it was something like from hero to zero in 86 seconds. We're on sheets 2 days later when it was taken away. And it was so surprising. We thought Russians and East Germans doped, but we just were a little naive in ever holding that mirror up to ourselves.
Then there was Greg Louganis, who won 2 gold medals in that game after hitting his head on the 3-meter springboard. Do you know Greg Louganis at all?
I know him. I know Greg very well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to know him over the years, especially around 2015. We were both inducted in. We both received some awards at a couple different places, actually. So our paths crossed, and it was great to get to know him.
Is it fair to say that those 92 games changed your life?
Yeah, that would be fair to say. Yeah, I mean, I like talking about something is kind of weird for me because it's not really part of my life anymore. It's just wonderful that I had that early experience in my life, but I think my life's been so much more interesting even after. And I think I've been able to do more. And I think the platform of winning the Olympics probably gave me, much more amplification of messaging, and probably was one of the reasons I came out. If I wasn't an Olympic champion, I don't think people maybe would have cared as much, but it made a big statement in 1998 when I did that. So it shaped my life in so many ways.
You were also on the cover of Time magazine.
Yes, that's true. I had a line of clothing at Sears. I had a book deal with Penguin. Like it was a big deal. But in those days, it was not fun to be me. I was a closeted sport jock. My whole world was homophobic, and they didn't even know it. It's just the way of the culture. and it's boys club and it's homophobic slurs and it's locker room banter and hiding who I was, it was torture. And so it's interesting, when I had such big success and maybe the most access to wealth in a way, I never felt worse in my life. And so it was a great lesson for later in life, the correlation between money and success and happiness. But at the time, it was very difficult, especially feeling out of touch with my values. Like I was kind of lying and didn't have integrity, and that I couldn't be, afraid for my livelihood. And of course, wanting to still be successful financially, et cetera, and seeing what people like Greg Louganis and Martina Navratilova and even Billie Jean went through when I was like 13, 18, 20, watching them be severely punished for coming out in the public eye, receiving no endorsements or losing endorsements, et cetera. So there was a lot at play back then. It's interesting now how quickly we can forget that history. It's been just 30 years ago, but the world was a very different place.
Well, let's talk about Marc Leduc. And he was your team member, Team Canada in 92. The two of you gave an interview for CBC Radio talking about being gay, talking about homophobia in sports. This is back in 93. But the two of you gave them anonymously. You gave your interview anonymously. Talk to me about why you chose to do that.
Oh, just for all the reasons I just really said, 93. So I came out in 1998, which was still early, but 1993, there was just no space to do that. I as a human being, I wasn't ready to speak publicly, openly. But I was happy to share my experience anonymously. I was terrified, by the way. I still remember hearing they masked our voices, but I could still hear myself. And I was like, people will know it's me. I can hear myself in there. And having to change it again. And I'm still friends with the woman that was the executive producer and host of that show, two different people, Mary and Jennifer. But still that was such a significant moment for all of us. And we were really risking something, but it was a topic that needed to be talked about.
So in 1998, you officially came out. And on one hand, you came out. On another hand, you lost a six-figure motivational speaking contract because you were considered too openly gay.
I lost the contract because they thought I was too gay, and I wasn't openly gay yet. And so it made me go, you know what? Screw it. If I'm being punished and I'm not even out, I may as well be out. Like, why am I putting myself through the torture of hiding? Even if I'm hiding, I'm going to lose stuff. So that was that. And it was interesting. It was by another gay man. And in those days, it was like sometimes a woman would hold back another woman from the C-suite because they wanted to keep it for themselves. Sometimes gay men would discriminate against other gay people because they didn't want to be exposed for who they were. And so there was a lot of interesting dynamics going on. But I remember I was hired for some gigs, and very close friends had me for lunch and actually said to me, "I'm so sorry, but with your news, we can't move forward." And it was devastating. And it did make me have to really go back to who I was. But there was such an empowerment of like losing that secret. It would take years to fully heal. And, the trauma of growing up gay and all that shit going on back in those days. But it was definitely freeing. And the connectivity to who I felt as an authentic person really helped me through that time, no matter how difficult the outside financial material losses might have been.
I think they've gotten better, but do you think they've gotten to the place where they should be?
Oh, well, I think there's still a long way to go, but I do feel like we're living through a bit of an interesting tipping point. So I started for fun, a little show called Queer Queries on the Mark Tewksbury YouTube channel, and I would tackle questions. And suddenly it was like, who is the first openly gay NFL contracted player? Who was the first openly gay NHL contracted player? Who was the first Major League Baseball? Like, there's all these breakthroughs in sport. And in fact, when some of those players came out, their jerseys went on to be like the #1 selling jerseys the following week. So I definitely think it's changed. I think the paradigm has shifted. I think that lots of brands actually love the idea of somebody being authentic and who they are. They're looking to diversify their audiences from the traditional, whatever sport audience they might have had. And I think having an openly LGBTQ plus person on your team actually speaks to new people and people actually see it as a huge opportunity, not the liability it used to be seen in my era.
In 2009, Marc Leduc passed away, silver medalist at the Olympic Games in 92, your Team Canada teammate. Did you know Marc Leduc at all?
I did as well, from that shared experience of doing the CBC radio show. So yeah, I didn't know him before. I mean, I knew him as he stood out. You know, boxers, there's not that many of them usually on the team, and I knew Marc from the Olympic Village. Of course, we didn't know each other. We're gay until we did the radio thing, and then I would see him around the community in Toronto for sure for many years to come.
After your Barcelona games in 92, you retired from swimming. Do you still swim? I
don't. No, I haven't really been a swimmer since 1992.
Really?
Since I stopped. Yeah, no, swimming, I love to run and bike and ski and do all sorts of other sports, but I really had swum myself out, especially smell of chlorine. So like if I'm on holiday in Barcelona or near the Mediterranean, love to swim in a body of water, a lake, an ocean. But the smell of chlorine and doing that for training, it just wasn't something that really ever appealed to me. Lots of my teammates are still swimming masters, but that just wasn't my trajectory at all.
So we will never see Mark Tewksbury near a pool.
Not anytime soon, unless I'm suntanning.
You've accomplished a lot in your life. You've made history. You've won gold medals. You're on the cover of Time magazine. But for you, what are you most proud of?
I would say my relationship with my partner, Rob, is coming up to, we're past 13 years into our 14th year. And it's just made me so happy. And I can see that I really, we just make each other's really the best we can be. And I love being able to do that for somebody and then in return feeling how I feel.
How did you guys meet?
Our lives, it's one of those kind of semi-faded things. Our lives intersected a couple of times. One when I was 24, didn't work out. He was in a relationship. Next, when I was 32, didn't work out. I wasn't living in Calgary. And then 48 years later, 3 different people in my life said, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. And I didn't realize it was him. And we got kind of set up on a blind date, a bit reluctantly with a friend that we share. I think he knew he was trying to keep us not together because he always wanted to have a great relationship. I think he was maybe envious of what would happen. But sure enough, we met on a Monday night, June 16th, 2008, and we've been together ever since. So it was a terrific blind date.
Wow.
It wasn't so blind. I walked in and went, oh, it's you.
Mark Tewksbury, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Keep up your great work. And hello, everybody out there. Goodbye, I guess.